Sadly, these are the last images you will ever see of the dwarf planet Pluto. Let me explain. Let's start off with some background info. The only spacecraft that has been to Pluto is the New Horizons spacecraft. It launched January 19th, 2006 on board an Atlas V rocket, which was the most powerful rocket available at the time for NASA to use. On top of that, New Horizons was made light, only weighing around 1,000 pounds, which is lighter than a car. They did all this because the scientists wanted to see Pluto before they died, and the only way to do that would be to put New Horizons on a flyby trajectory because Pluto is so far out, and a flyby trajectory basically zooms past Pluto because it's moving so fast. Compared to a more normal, fuel-efficient trajectory called a Hohmann transfer trajectory, which basically uses the minimal amount of fuel required to reach that target. Which is great if you want to send a spacecraft to Mars, where it would only take 6 to 9 months on that trajectory. But sending a spacecraft to Pluto on a Hohmann transfer trajectory could literally take hundreds of years, which we just don't have. Another disadvantage of putting New Horizons on a flyby trajectory is because they had to make New Horizons so light to be put on that trajectory, they could not put enough fuel for New Horizons to slow down once it reached Pluto, which means that New Horizons would only have 24 hours at Pluto until it flies away into interstellar oblivion. Even though New Horizons was put on the fastest trajectory to Pluto, it still took over 9 years to finally reach Pluto, which it did in 2015, which is just crazy to think about how far away Pluto is. Because New Horizons was so far away, it literally took years to transfer all the data from its Pluto encounter, at a data rate of less than 2 kilobytes a second. New Horizons, once it reached Pluto, did completely change our understanding of Pluto. Here's an image that it took of Pluto. Now, before that, the only image that we had was taken by the Hubble Space Telescope, and it was made of data taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. So here it is here. And you can see just how vastly different these look. All just because Pluto is so far away. Being able to send a spacecraft out there to see it firsthand can really give us a much better understanding of Pluto. New Horizons was also able to get a much closer look on Pluto's moon Charon, and because Charon is so large, it pulls on Pluto as well, causing them to orbit a point called the barycenter. Here's a closer look at Charon. New Horizons was also able to get us some pretty up-close views of Pluto. Now what you're looking at is a feature of Pluto where it's a frozen nitrogen ice lake. So liquid nitrogen basically froze here, and at one point this was a liquid nitrogen lake which then became frozen. Here are some mountain ranges on Pluto, and these are ice mountains that are about 11,000 feet tall. This whole image that you see right here is about 230 miles across. Here's another view of some more Plutonian mountains. Here is a close-up of one of the mountainous edges of Sputnik Planitia, a massive ice plain on Pluto that also kind of looks like a heart. Here is another view of another edge of Sputnik Planitia. Before New Horizons said goodbye to Pluto, it took some of the most remarkable final images. Now what you're seeing here is the thin atmosphere of Pluto being illuminated by the sunlight, while New Horizons is in Pluto's shadow, and it's just absolutely crazy to think of. That wasn't the end for New Horizons, because as it continued through the Kuiper Belt, it was able to make an encounter with contact binary asteroid Arkoth. And basically, this is one of the most distant objects ever imaged, which is just absolutely amazing. Unfortunately for Pluto and Arkoth, those were likely some of the last images you may ever see of these objects, because there hasn't been a big scientific push recently to go out back to those objects, especially since they're so far away and take so long to get to. Even though New Horizons revealed that underneath Pluto's icy surface there could actually be an entire liquid water ocean, there still hasn't been a big scientific push to go back to Pluto, with bigger focuses being put on closer objects like Enceladus, Europa, and Titan. If you find this type of stuff interesting, feel free to like and follow for more content.